Family Finally Found, Book 1, After the Dust Settles, Chapter 3, Take Your Cryptids to Work Day. Maddie slowly crawled her way into consciousness, her mouth and eyes dry from last night's fire. Birds chirped outside the tent, and filtered sunlight lit the inside. She rolled and uttered a soft grunt, her muscles stiffened sore from the stress and activity. Her muscles sore from the stress and activity of the last 2 days. Sleeping essentially on the ground probably didn't do her back any favors. Maybe they should have figured out a way to sleep inside after all. Yawning, she rubbed the sleep from her eyes. Snores surrounded her, Tom on her right and the boys on her left. Everyone had dropped pretty solidly last night. They had all been thoroughly exhausted. She turned, checking on the boys. Sonic lay spread eagle, his mouth open and a thin line of drool glistening down his chin. Tails had rolled over at some point in the night, flipping itself so that his head was even with the hedgehog's feet. His twin tails spanning out near Sonic's face, and every exhale of the blue boy's snore cascaded over the soft fur in a puff of wind. And Knuckles? The last tendrils of sleep suddenly snapped, and Maddie was now wide awake. The echidna was missing.
Tom, wake up!
She hissed, shaking her husband. The man snorted, jerking himself into a half-sitting position.
Huh? What's the matter?
Knuckles is gone.
She unzipped the tent flap and crawled out, blinking in the bright sun of the morning.
What?
The question turned into a yawn, and Tom ran a hand over his face. He was still fighting his way to full wakefulness. Maddie shot her husband an annoyed look.
Will you please get out here and help me look for him? He could be anywhere.
I am here.
A deep voice called from a patch of nearby trees. The red echidna walked into the light, clutching the strap of the canvas bag slung across him. His other hand rested on the outline of the master emerald inside.
See? He's fine.
Tom said, emerging from the tent and wincing. It seemed she wasn't the only one who was sore. He leaned backward to stretch his spine. Uttering a relieved sigh, Maddie moved closer and placed a hand on Knuckles' shoulder.
You nearly gave me a heart attack, big guy.
Knuckles raised his eyebrows, an expression of surprise passing his features. He dipped his head in a small bow.
Apologies, madam. I did not intend to cause you harm.
She smiled, standing upright again.
Figure of speech, Nux. It just means you scared me. Where'd you go?
I awoke with the sun and patrolled the area, ensuring our safety. The many trees give perfect cover for an ambush.
He paused, cocking an eyebrow toward her.
Why were you afraid?
Because I don't want anything to happen to you. You could get lost or hurt.
Impossible, for I am the greatest warrior in the galaxy. I fear nothing.
Yeah, well, I do. Just do me a favor and don't wander off like that again. Think we're gonna have to set some ground rules from now on.
She looked over her shoulder at Tom, who nodded.
So, the first rule of the Wachowski household, always let someone know where you're going.
The echidna furrowed his brow for a few seconds.
I am a part of this house of Wachowski.
Maddie exchanged a glance with her husband before hunkering down before Knuckles.
If you want to be, you and Tails are both welcome to join our family, but only if it's truly what you want.
But no pressure, big guy. You're welcome to stay as long as you like. If you decide in a few days you'd rather move on, we'll be sad to see you go, but we won't stop you. It's entirely your call.
The echidna lowered his head, his hand squeezing tight over the emerald's outline. After a few seconds, he looked up, flickering his eyes between the couple.
I will consider your offer. It is a big decision joining a new tribe, and I am unfamiliar with your planet and its customs. It's strange here.
Maddie gave a little laugh as she stood back up.
Kid, sometimes I think the same thing. But we do have graves.
She tilted her head in a quick wink.
Those are very good.
So planet Earth isn't all bad. But back to the point, try not to wander off without letting anyone know from now on, okay, Nux?
The echidna gave a short nod.
Understood.
Good.
What time is it?
Maddie asked, taking her phone out of the tent. She tapped the screen and gave a small gasp.
It's almost 7:30. I have to get to the clinic in an hour.
You shower first. I'll get the other two up and get them some breakfast. Then jump in when you're done.
Sounds like a plan.
She said, sprinting towards the house. A hot shower sounded like heaven. Voices floated up the stairs as Maddie walked into the hallway. She had been right. A shower made her feel like a new woman. Despite the time crunch, she stood under the hot water for a few minutes, letting it flow over her, soothing her sore muscles, and rinsing away the sweat, dirt, and grime of the past 2 days. A quick wash, a deep condition for her hair, a fresh set of clothes, and she felt ready to face the world. Coming down the stairs, she heard a conversation between the rest of her family. She smiled. Family. Funny how that word came to mind so easily. Despite the fact that 2 of the 4 people down here had only been in their care for less than 24 hours.
Why would I want to eat brightly colored rocks?
Knuckles' baritone voice asked, making Maddie smile and drawing laughter from Sonic.
They're not really rock snacks. Fruity Pebbles is just a name based on an old cartoon. They're little sugar-coated bits of puffed corn, I think.
I like these frosted flakes. They're really good.
Wait till you get your 3rd bowl down. Then they really taste good.
Sonic said as Maddie rounded the corner in the kitchen.
Let's stick with 1 bowl for now.
She said, grabbing a mug from the cabinet and pouring herself some coffee.
I don't think Tails has quite your metabolism or iron stomach to dump that much sugar.
Hey, you look good.
Tom said, reaching for his wife. She shooed him away.
You're still filthy. Go get cleaned up. Then we'll smooch.
Gross.
Sonic chimed in between bites of his own bowl of frosted flakes. Knuckles, meanwhile, searched the cereal cabinet for something that appealed. There were a lot of choices, as Sonic's appetite meant they went through a box every few days. He moved some boxes around before uttering.
What's up?
Find something, big guy?
Maddie asked, sipping her coffee. The echidna pulled out a box of grape nuts.
I shall have these for my first meal.
I thought you didn't want to eat rocks, 'cause that's what those are.
They are not. They're high in fiber and all natural.
Maddie said, pulling a bowl down for the eldest boy.
So's trees bark, and I'm not going to eat that.
The hedgehog said, drawing laughter from Tails. She turned to the echidna.
Don't listen to him. But I will warn you, Nux. Those don't taste like grapes.
The boy paused, giving the box in his hand a cocked eyebrow.
But why does the box claim they do?
I honestly don't know. But they're good for digestion and help keep you regular.
Knuckles looked back at the box. An idea suddenly occurred to Maddie.
Hey, hold on. I know something you might like.
She reached into the cabinet and pulled out a box of Raisin Bran.
These have good fiber and raisins. Those are basically little shriveled grapes.
Shriveled grapes?
She reached into the box and fished one out.
Sure. Here, try one.
The boy reached for it, but his bulky mitts did not provide the needed dexterity to grasp the small dried fruit. Maddie offered a kind smile.
Open it.
Knuckles hesitated for a second, then lifted his snout to open his mouth wide, poking his tongue out slightly. Maddie placed the raisin on his tongue and he pulled it into his mouth. After chewing it for a few seconds, he nodded.
These shriveled grapes are almost as tasty as the unshriveled ones. Almost.
I'll add them to my new shopping list.
She said, preparing a bowl of cereal for the boy. She grabbed a tablespoon from the drawer. She figured a larger spoon would work better with his gloves, and set him up at the kitchen island.
There you go, Red.
Thank you for your assistance.
He said, pulling himself onto a stool. He scooped the first spoonful into his mouth and chewed, eventually nodding in satisfaction.
An acceptable meal.
So what are we gonna do today?
Sonic asked, finishing off his third bowl. He drank the leftover milk and put the dishes in the sink.
I could show the guys around town and introduce them to everyone.
I think that may be a bit overwhelming right off the bat for everyone. Besides, guns still hanging around, and Main Street's a mess.
Maddie sighed, refreshing her coffee. She glanced at Knuckles, who had lowered his head slightly.
Not that it's any of your fault, mind you, but it may be best to keep a low profile for a bit.
Again with the hiding?
Sonic muttered, slumping back onto his stool.
So what, are we supposed to just hang around the house all day while you and Donut Lord are at work?
I didn't say you needed to hide. I was just thinking you guys could come with me to the clinic.
You want to poke us, don't you?
No. Well, yes. I want to get some baseline recordings for you guys.
What does that mean?
Tails asked, taking his bowl to the sink.
She wants to poke us.
Sonic said, perching his elbow on the counter and resting his chin on the heel of his hand.
She did it with me when I first came to live with them. Hey, does that mean I don't have to?
Sorry, Blue. You've grown quite a bit over the last 8 months. I want to get some new breedings to compare the previous ones to.
The boy groaned, letting his head drop to the counter.
Oh man.
Poke us?
She offered him a reassuring smile.
I am a veterinarian, which is basically a doctor for animals. I want to take some x-rays of you guys, get your vitals recorded, height and weight, body temperature, that kind of thing. And take some blood. It's basically so I can know what's normal for you, should you get sick or hurt in the future.
She shot a stink eye at Sonic.
The blood work is honestly the thing that takes the least amount of time, but Blue Boy over there pitches such a fit when I try to take it.
I just don't like needles.
He muttered, rolling his head to face away from her.
Says the boy with a head full of them.
And it hurts.
It wouldn't if you would just hold still for the few seconds it takes.
You're a healer?
Maddie turned to Knuckles, who was nearly done with his cereal.
A healer of animals, yes.
He furrowed his brow, lowering his head slightly. After a few seconds of thought, he raised his head again, sitting straight and tall.
I shall be honored to join you at your clinic. I will sit still for the poking and any other healing ritual you deem necessary.
Excellent. Tails, you okay with me running a few tests?
Maddie said, rinsing her cup out in the sink. The little fox drew his hands to his chest, touching the tips of the pointer fingers of each hand together.
They won't hurt, will they?
Don't listen to Sonic. The blood work only takes a few seconds, and it's just a teeny tiny little needle.
Okay, I guess so.
Do I get a say too? Cause I really don't want to do this.
Do what?
Tom walked around the corner, freshly shaven, his hair still slightly damp from his shower. He worked the buttons on his sheriff's uniform.
What's he talking about?
I want to take them to the clinic for some tests. You look good, by the way.
Maddie said, planting a kiss on his cheek.
Thank you. I thought so.
Why are you dressed like that? Is it ceremonial garb?
It's my work uniform. I'm the sheriff of Green Hills, a protector, kind of like a warrior in a way. I keep the town and its people safe.
Ah, a warrior chief. I would have not guessed.
Maddie, should I be offended at that?
Nah, Knox is learning all sorts of things this morning. I'm not going to force you to come, but I'm asking you to. And I think Tails and Knuckles would be more comfortable having you there.
I will be fine. Your test will be no match for me. I will pass them all easily.
The echidna said, taking his bowl to the sink as he had seen the others do.
Not those kinds of tests, big guy.
Maddie said before turning back to the hedgehog.
Come on, Blue. We've got a new litter of kittens that needs some loving on.
How old?
Going on 4 weeks.
Oh, that's the cutest little age. They're starting to land. I mean, sure, I guess. Besides, Tails will need someone to hold his hand when you pull out those harpoons you call needles.
The little fox turned to give Maddie a terrified look, and she shook her head. She held a finger and a thumb a millimeter apart.
They're about this size. Very teeny.
Well, you seem to have this under control. I'm gonna get moving. I'll try to find that commander and see about getting this house fixed. Call if you need anything. Good luck.
He gave her a kiss, lingering a little longer than normal. Maddie waved as her husband hurried out of the front door. She uttered a little laugh in her throat. Luck? She wouldn't need luck. Everything was going to be fine. Still, her first full day as the guardian of 3 superpowered boys, she would be lying if she didn't admit a small amount of fear stirring in the back of her mind. Tails and Knuckles were still a little unsure about things, about her. Sonic had been the same way when he first came to them, but they had gone through it. She hoped this settling in period would go smoother based on what she learned in the past.
Okay, boys, let's move out.
She called, gathering her work bag and car keys. Sonic pulled the door to the clinic open and stood aside to let Maddie in first.
What a little gentleman.
The woman said, giving him a smile. He moved to walk through next, but Knuckles literally muscled past. The echidna gave him a questioning look as he entered the lobby behind Maddie. Tails stood back, a look of uncertainty on his little face. The hedgehog rolled his eyes and gestured for the kid to go in before him. Finally, Sonic walked into the clinic lobby, and no one seemed to notice.
Oh my goodness, what an adorable little cutie.
Lexi, the woman at the front desk, exclaimed as Tails blushed.
Look at you.
The fox kid curled his tails around himself, and Lexi placed a hand on her chest to lean heavily against the desk.
I'm dying of cuteness overload here.
Lexi, pull it back a notch. You're freaking the kid out.
Manu said, picking up a floof Tails. The woman behind the counter laughed, but seemed to compose herself.
Sorry, sweetie. I'm Lexi. It's very nice to meet you.
She held out her hand. Tails unfloofed slightly and offered her a hand.
Hi, I'm Tails.
Maddie sat the fox on the counter as Lexi chatted and ran a hand up and down his back to soothe him. His tails withdrew and swung lazily off the counter.
I'm here too.
Sonic muttered to himself. A tightness had appeared in his chest, knotting itself right behind his ribs.
Nice to see anyone notices.
To the left of the counter, one of the other vets had come into the lobby and started to take in the new arrivals. Aren't you a big one? Are you a hedgehog too? She asked. A snarl briefly passed the older boy's muzzle, but he suppressed it quickly.
I am not. I am Knuckles, an echidna warrior.
The doctor must have realized her mistake and lowered her head in a little bow. I apologize for the error. I meant no disrespect to your race. Knuckles offered her a smile and dipped his head in return.
No need to apologize. I am new to your world with similar quills. It is easy to make a mistake.
Like being a hedgehog is so horrible. Echidnas aren't all that great.
Blue boy, what are you doing looking all glum over there? Get your tail back here and give me a hug, you little goober.
The tightness in his chest lessened as eyes turned to him. The doctor held out a hand as he passed and gave her a quick high five before being pulled into a bear hug by the woman behind the counter.
Oh, it's been a while since you've been by. Good to see you, Blue.
Lexi said, lowering him to sit on the desk. He smiled and his chest felt a little lighter still.
Good to be seen. Had a bit of trouble over the weekend. Some big robot or something. Had to save the town. You know how it is.
Yeah, I know how it is. The place would fall apart without me.
She leaned forward and spoke behind her hand in an exaggerated stage whisper.
It's hard being the one keeping these together, am I right?
You're so right.
Maddie rolled her eyes with a smile.
Okay, if you two are done assuming credit for everything that's ever been done, we've got a clinic to run.
She pulled Tails off the counter and shooed the boys into the back.
Lexi, could you pull Sonic's file for me? And we'll need to start new ones for Tails and Knuckles.
Will do, Maddie.
Sonic gave the woman a wave as he followed Maddie back to her office. The tight feeling in his chest had lessened, but not disappeared entirely. Lunchtime, Maddie had ordered a pizza for the boys, and the three now sat in the little kitchen at the back of the clinic to eat. Sonic ate slower than normal. It was hard to swallow past the knot in his chest. It had grown steadily throughout the morning, becoming heavier with every test Maddie ran. He kept his eyes on his food, not daring to look up at Tails or Knuckles. He hated doing these checkups. It was boring and a waste of perfectly good goof-off time. And with two more boys who needed them in between Maddie's scheduled clients for today, it was taking forever. Tails, on the other hand, found the whole thing fascinating. He asked smart questions, seemed to understand the answers, and chatted with Maddie in a way Sonic couldn't. When it came to machines and the science stuff, it was like the kid was a grown-up in an 8-year-old's body. He really was a genius. Knuckles was more reserved when it came to talking, but he sat stone still during every X-ray and physical exam. He didn't even flinch when Maddie poked him for blood work. Tails had flinched a bit when the needle went in, but other than that, he was fine. Sonic, on the other hand, had nearly passed out. It was unbelievably embarrassing. He had tried to play it cool, especially since the other two had done it without complaint. But the minute he saw the needle coming towards him, the world swam. He clenched onto the chair's armrest, squeezing it so tight his arm still hurt. Heart racing, he clamped his eyes shut, and Manny's voice had sounded so far away. She had quickly moved into the little couch in her office and had him lie down for a while until he felt better. That happened a half an hour ago. Maddie did not suggest a second attempt.
Maybe we'll try another day.
She had said, and the pity in her eyes made him feel sick to his stomach. Some hero.
This is really good. Can you put other things on pizza?
Yeah, all sorts of stuff. Just about anything you want.
I would like grapes on another one.
Knuckles said, and Sonic uttered an annoyed sigh.
Grapes don't go with everything.
Have you tried it?
No, but
Then you do not know. I would try it.
Sonic didn't respond. This was a stupid conversation, and he wasn't going to continue arguing the fact that grapes didn't belong on pizza, even though they don't. Everyone knows that. Everyone but Knuckles, apparently. The perfect warrior who didn't so much as bat an eyelash when he got poked with a needle and sat oh so still for every other test. My goodness, isn't he just so perfect?
stop it. Just stop it right now. He had to be tough to survive as he ran around the galaxy, looking for that gem in the bag slung across him, while you were running around Green Hills, hiding and goofing off in your cave. He was fighting for his life. He's not doing anything to try and one-up you. This is just the way he is, so stop being such a jerk.
Sonic scolded himself. He glanced up and caught sight of the bandage wrapped around the echidna's arm. Tails had a matching dressing covering the wound, where each had blood successfully and uneventfully drawn. Sonic's arm was glaringly bare. The hedgehog furrowed his brow and wished the knot in his chest would untie itself and go away. Tails peeked over at Sonic from the corner of his eye. The hedgehog was unusually quiet and withdrawn, especially after the failed blood work incident. He was probably pretty embarrassed by it, but there was something else eating at the boy. The kid could practically sense it. In his short life, Tails had been in situations like this before. Every now and then, some family decided to take pity on him and tried to take him in. The kids already in the family would inevitably get jealous, or just flat out dislike him because of either his extra tail or his intelligence, or both. These negative emotions would fester until the inevitable explosion, in which there was lots of shouting, crying, and anger thrown about. It always ended up with him back on his own, and it always started with this awkward silence, this tension. Tails pushed those thoughts away and tried to look at all possible causes for Sonic's sudden sullen mood. Maybe he was simply embarrassed about before. Maybe he was feeling antsy and frustrated about being stuck at the clinic instead of out exploring and having fun. Maybe those 3 bowls of Frosted Flakes had caught up with him, and he needed to run a bit to burn them off. Still, a nagging thought poked at the back of his mind. Maybe the hedgehog was realizing that asking them to stay wasn't such a good idea. Deep in his heart, Tails expected a moment like this. He just never thought it would come so soon. Knuckles wiped his muzzle with the back of his hand. This pizza was messy, but tasty, and he hoped to try it with grapes in the future, despite what the hedgehog said. Grapes could make anything better. Today had been an interesting experience. He had never been to such a well-stocked healer hut clinic before, and the machines Healer Maddie had were most impressive. One could look inside your body. This planet had such a strange mix of magics and technology. The fox seemed to understand how these machines worked. A weak fighter but a strong thinker. A good ally to have. A warrior's heart even if the kid sometimes let fear take hold. He could help the boy with that. Make him stronger, braver. The hedgehog acted strange. Now that the battle was over and he had time to think, did he regret offering his friendship to Knuckles? It would be understandable. The echidna had helped his enemy and nearly killed him. Nearly got the man and woman who acted as guardians killed as well. Almost destroyed his home. There were lots of possible reasons for the hedgehog's unease. And to be honest, Knuckles didn't blame the boy for feeling such a way. If the situation was reversed, he supposed he would have trouble fully trusting someone who had started out as an enemy. There would always be that seed of doubt. But the truth was, he respected Sonic. The boy had lost everything, just like Knuckles had, yet still remained positive and hopeful. He still fought for what he felt was right deep in his heart, protected those he loved, and he had saved Knuckles from a crumbling temple, even though moments before the Echidna had tried to kill him, yet again. The Hedgehog may not be well trained in combat, but he has a warrior's heart nonetheless, a hero's heart, which is what fed into the guilt the Echidna carried even more. Sonic was indeed a true hero who had risked everything to save his home, his family, his planet. He extended his hand in friendship to the enemy who had fought him at every turn. He invited that former enemy into his home, into his family. Knuckles had been a fool to have believed Robotnik so blindly, and the guilt he felt when he thought of all he had done based on that man's word seemed never-ending. The shame of being tricked so easily and completely ate at his heart. He didn't know how long he would be welcome in Sonic's home, in the house of Wachowski. But every moment he stayed, he would carry himself with honor. He would do all he could to repay their kindness and prove himself worthy of their trust. Maddie walked into the kitchen and was met with three sour-faced kids, each lost in his own thoughts.
What the heck, guys? Today wasn't that bad, was it?
The boys glanced at each other before looking back at her.
Well, I think I know something that will brighten those glum faces. One, we're all done with your checkups.
She said, tossing the pizza box into the trash.
Thank goodness. Number 2?
Sonic muttered, wiping his muzzle with a napkin.
Number 2, we've got some little kittens who could use some socializing.
Oh yeah! I totally forgot about the kittens.
You have kittens? Can I see them?
You can all spend the rest of the day playing with them after you wash up.
On it!
The hedgehog cried and zipped to the sink. Tails and Knuckles followed, close behind.
Oh my gosh, they're so cute!
Tails gushed, flicking his tails to tease two little calicos.
Are there always kittens here?
Sonic shook his head, rolling a fuzzy ball toward a little black kitten. The baby made a wobbly pounce and rolled over the ball.
Not always, but sometimes they'll get a strain who gives birth, and then they adopt the babies out once they're old enough.
Mikey babies?
The fox kid said, and Sonic thought he was talking mostly to himself. Tails laid down to the kittens currently rolling in his tail fluff.
I hope you find families who want you and love you and will always take care of you.
The knot in Sonic's chest had loosened when Maddie released the litter into the room. But now his heart squeezed. How could these kittens have a better prospect for homes than this fox did his entire life?
They'll find good homes, Tails, just like you did.
He said softly, and the fox looked over at him. But the kit looked away quickly, his muzzle flaring hot. Sonic smiled, glancing over his shoulder at Knuckles.
How you doing, Nux?
The echidna sat cross-legged, his back against the wall. The canvas bag containing the Master Emerald sat beside him. The first time he had taken the bag off since Maddie had given it to him yesterday afternoon. The mother cat lay in his lap, curled and content, purring softly. Knuckles slowly stroked the calico's back, his face calm and relaxed.
I am well, Sonic. This creature's vibrations is very soothing.
Yeah, it is.
The hedgehog said, turning back to the kitten currently batting the ball. His dour mood from earlier seemed so long ago. So silly. Had he really been jealous of Knuckles simply because the older boy had been cooperative and well-behaved during Maddie's exams? Seemed like a really stupid reason now.
Sonic?
Yeah, and Tails?
Tails paused, brows furrowed. He wouldn't look at the hedgehog, focusing instead on the kittens in his tail fluff.
You tell me if... Never mind.
Tell you what?
Nothing. Don't worry about it. It's dumb.
No. What is it?
The kid pulled his lips tight.
If you wanted me to leave, you'd tell me, right?
Sonic's jaw dropped open. Shock had so thoroughly overtaken his brain, he literally couldn't form words. Tails didn't actually think he would be asked to leave, did he? Why on earth would that even cross his mind? The hedgehog glanced behind him and found Knuckles watching, leaning forward, his eyes sharp and focused. Sonic didn't think he looked angry, but to be honest, the echidna always looked kind of angry all the time. Sonic looked back at the fox.
Tails. No, I'd never. I mean, I would, but.
He realized how this was sounding, so he closed his mouth and gave his head a shake as he moved closer to the younger boy.
Tails, why do you think I'd want you to leave?
Because usually the real kids don't like new ones coming in. It causes a bunch of bad feelings, and I really like being your friend. So if staying with you would change that, then I'd rather leave and be your friend than stay and have you eventually hate me.
The knot reappeared in Sonic's chest, but this time he thought it was his heart actually breaking. This boy, this brave, sweet fox boy, had suffered so much rejection in his life. It was all he knew, all he expected, and even now, when Sonic was sure he had finally found where he belonged, the kid still believed it would only be temporary. A thought occurred to Sonic, and he nearly gasped at how obvious it was, but that he'd never realized it before now. For as brilliant as Tails was, he was still a kid, a really young kid, who never had a real home or family, ever, for as far as Sonic knew anyway. This whole situation must have been a double-edged sword for the little fox. There was the thrill of being around people who accepted him and didn't turn him away. But there was also the worry, the sheer terror, that at any moment he could be, because that's all anyone has done to him in the past. Sonic's heart melted and he felt more protective of this little fox kid than he ever had. The boy needed him. Despite being a genius, despite leaving behind everything he'd ever known to seek Sonic out, and despite risking his life to help stop Robotnik, he was still a little kid who was terrified of being rejected again. This boy needed him.
Tails, I could never hate you. You saved me. You risked everything to come and help me. Sure, there were some bumps, but you always stood by me. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for you. You little fox boy are right where you belong. Afraid you're stuck with me for the foreseeable future there, pal. So sorry, at the end, no more questions. Seriously though, I don't care if all those others didn't see you for the great guy you are. It's their loss. You're here now. Here we're Wachowski now. There's no escaping it. Just accept that you're here for good.
Eyes shiny, muzzle burning, Tails smiled up at the hedgehog.
Really?
Absolutely.
Thanks, Sonic.
Alright, we can't leave it like that. Come on, bring it in.
The fox didn't hesitate and threw himself into the waiting embrace. He squeezed and laughed when the hedgehog squeezed back. The kid buried his face in Sonic's shoulder, his tears wetting the older boy's fur. The hedgehog smiled, blinking away his own tears. He glanced back at Knuckles, who had relaxed back to stroking the cat in his lap. He offered Sonic a small nod. The blue boy nodded back, giving Tails another squeeze.
Hey, Tails.
He said, and the kid pulled back.
Think you can help me be brave?
With what?
Well, you and Nux are sporting such fashionable armbands, I just had to have one of my own. But I might need some help, though.
The kid smiled, nodding his head.
You got it, Sonic.
The hedgehog took a deep breath as he stood to find Maddie. This was probably a mistake. This was definitely a mistake. They were in Maddie's office. He sat in a chair, feeling like all the world was awaiting his execution. Lexi and Maddie stood to the right, preparing the vials and other things necessary for the blood draw. Knuckles stood near the doorway, the Master Emerald bag slung back across him. Tails sat on to his left, holding his hand and giving an encouraging squeeze.
Breathe, Sonic.
A huge mistake. Lexi worked on his right arm, wrapping a bit of rubber tube above the elbow. The little patch of fur she had shaven near his inner elbow earlier today for the infamous failed blood work incident showed a vein ready for poking. A ginormous, monumental, colossal mistake.
I can't do this.
Just close your eyes. The boys will talk to you, distract you. It'll be done before you know it. And slow your breathing. You're gonna hyperventilate.
He did as she suggested, clamping them shut and focused on deeper breaths.
Tails, talk to me.
You're doing great, Sonic. Try to picture something relaxing in your mind.
The hedgehog tried. Then something cold and wet touched the bear's skin on his inner elbow, and he yelped.
It's just the alcohol swamp. Breathe, kiddo.
Tails gave his hand another squeeze.
Picture something calm, like a meadow, or the kittens we were playing with.
Sonic tried. Oh, how he tried. But he just couldn't focus.
I can't picture anything. Give me a scene, Tails.
Okay, picture a nice calm beach with the soothing ocean waves out on the deep water.
Hands touched his right arm and his heart raced.
Can't swim, nearly drowned. Something else, something else.
Okay, how about flying? You're in a plane soaring through the sky.
With missiles coming straight at my head? Not working. Nux, what do you've got?
Courage, Hedgehog. You must focus on calming things. Do not think of spiky pokey things, especially not the gray spearfly of Zelix 4.
I don't know what that is.
It is a great beast, larger than one of your cars, with a stinger twice the length of its body. It injects its victims with venom to dissolve them from the inside.
Sonic whimpered.
Knuckles, that's not helping.
Sometimes the victim is lucky and is merely impaled by the stinger. They usually survive with severe organ damage. Sometimes. That is very rare though.
Sonic, don't listen to him. Knuckles, stop. That's your idea of calming?
Be thankful I didn't describe the crawling bloodworm. It enters the victim's ear canal while they sleep and—
Nux, come closer so I can throw up on you.
I said do not think of it. I can't help it if he did not follow my instructions.
But then you described it. How could he not think of it if you're describing what it looked like?
So he could know what not to think of.
Stop talking about it. Tails, your turn, go.
Okay, I want you to picture, Nah, now all I could think about is that stupid flying.
You two are terrible at this. All you had to do was distract me for 30 seconds so I could get through this stupid poke, and instead you put some nightmare fuel into my head. That's even worse than the thing I was originally freaked out about.
Sonic cried as he opened his eyes to glare at the other two boys.
Knuckles started it. I didn't even know something that horrible existed. Seriously, dude, what kind of nightmare planet were you on?
I have been on worse planets. I have seen things that would haunt your dreams for the rest of your days.
Yeah, and one of them's already in there. Thank you very much. Okay, this didn't work. I tried. Maddie, we're going to have to—
He looked over and found Maddie and Lexi smiling down at him. Lexi held up 2 vials of blood.
You're done, Blue. Been done for a good 10 seconds.
Sonic checked his arm and found a white bandage wrapped just below his elbow, just like Knuckles and Tails.
Why didn't you—
Honestly, I wanted to see where this conversation was going. You 3 are hilarious.
Maddie looked at Tails and Knuckles.
Good job, boys. That worked better than I expected.
Turning to Sonic, she leaned over and planted a kiss between his ears.
I'm really proud of you, sweetie.
Sonic stared at the bandage on his arm.
I didn't even feel it.
Of course not. I told you it wouldn't hurt if you just sat still.
Maddie said, gathering her work laptop and purse into a messenger bag. The hedgehog hopped off the chair.
Huh.
He looked over at the other boys.
I did it.
Good job, Sonic.
Well done, Sonic. Your badge of courage has been well earned. My masterful distraction has won the day.
Yeah. Let's not talk about that flight thing ever again. Seriously. So messed up.
I second that. No more talk of nightmarish creatures, Knuckles.
Maddie said, slipping her bag strap on her shoulder. The echidna gave a short nod.
Very well.
Time to head out, boys. How about we stop by Mickey D's on the way home?
Yes!
Tails and Knuckles gave him a questioning glance. He shook his head.
Don't worry. You're gonna love it. Especially the fries. Oh, so good.
We don't normally eat out so much, but we've got some shopping to do tonight.
She said, leading them to the front.
Shopping?
the fox asked as they waved goodbye to Lexi.
There is no way I'm sleeping out in that tent again tonight. And I've got a couple of boys who need beds.
She gave them a kind smile as she unlocked the Subaru.
Time to start getting you and Knuckles settled into your new home.